All right, welcome back to the show. At this time, we are joined by author, Netflix star, former coach at Independence Community College, and of course, known for his time starring on the Netflix documentary Last Chance U, Coach Jason Brown. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey, how you doing? Appreciate you having me.
Doing well, Coach. Appreciate you taking some time and being with us. I know that even though you're not coaching right now, it seems like everywhere I turn that you're doing a speaking engagement or promoting the book. I mean, you are still extremely busy, even though you're not coaching right now. So we do appreciate you taking some time and being with us. And I want to start by introducing our listeners a little bit more to Jason Brown, the person. And what I mean by that is this is that many people will watch or see the clips from Netflix or they'll see the conversations from Netflix and they try to frame their opinion according to the environment in which they grew up because we tend to see things through the eyes of what we know. And what people don't realize is many times is where you come from, it really shapes the way that you communicate, the way that you talk, the way that you know, address certain issues. And I think my house is a perfect example of that. I spent a lot of my youth growing up in Detroit, Michigan, in the inner city of Detroit. My wife is from Hoax Bluff, Alabama, which is about as country as you get. So when we see people talk, we see people communicate, we form different opinions about that a lot of times just based on our backgrounds and our environments and the places that we grew up. So I'd like for you to tell our listeners a little bit about your early beginnings from Compton, California, and kind of how your life was growing up.
Yeah, it's probably different than most people with my skin tone, I guess, so to speak. I was the only white person on my block at my school in my city at the time, being from Compton. Growing up in the '80s, obviously, it was majority. There was still a few white families on the other side of town, but it was mostly predominantly black and African American. Hispanics have um, now basically it's Hispanic oriented for the most part. So it's turned from decade to decade. But during my time, I grew up basically a product of my environment is what I tell people. Never tried to be something I wasn't, and never. I've always been a leader, not a follower, and just was a product of my environment. And I was always, I think I was raised to be a chameleon, so to speak. And I think I can relate with all walks of life, and I can walk into any household. And I think that's what made me the best recruiter in America. And that's why I think real recognizes real, and kids understood it, parents understood it, regardless white, black, purple, or green. I was able to relate to whoever because of my diverse upbringing.
Now, after your upbringing in Compton, California, you would ultimately end up playing football and having a record breaking career at Fort Hays State College, correct?
Yeah, that's a story in itself. I mean, I was a JUCO product, obviously, and out of high school, I was going to go to Indiana, the eight deal, and I was a knucklehead. Did some dumb things, and ended up costing me. So I had to go JUCO, went junior college route, and ended up taking that route, and ended up going to actually New Mexico with Coach Rocky Long at the time. We had a few JUCO quarterbacks signed that year, 98, 99. Um, and then I got there and basically was there a few months and told me my clock was cooked. And I had no D1 clock based
Wow.
on a JUCO that I was at. It kind of screwed us over and started our clock. But they folded the program 5 weeks into the season, and we were supposed
Oh,
to get our
wow.
year back. But once 12 units started, your clock starts forever. So my clock was up. So basically, I had to go D2, and I went sight unseen to play for a man named Jeff Liker, who after doing some research, he was at Tennessee with Peyton Manning and Coach Cutcliffe, and so I knew he had been around some great ones, and so I said, screw it. I took my daughter, put her in the car, and we drove to Hays, Kansas, and then the rest is history.
Absolutely. And after your record breaking career at Fort Hays State, you would go on to become a coach. And I want to talk to you about something that really blows my mind, something that the rest of us could never understand. And that is, even though, having some experience as a coach, still a young guy, what was it like to have all of your moments caught on film? Now, I know they didn't share all the moments. I know that they, obviously framed it from the perspective that was going to, sell the most subscriptions, if you will. But what was it like to have every moment, good, bad, and different, to be video recorded for the world to see, knowing that any mistake that you made, any error of judgment that you made, that the whole world was going to know about it? I mean, that is something I don't think the rest of us could ever comprehend.
Well, I don't know about young. I was the youngest head coach in junior college in 2008. So, I was at that time I was the head coach at Compton College, and I was the youngest junior college coach in the country.
Yeah.
At 31 or whatever I was, I don't remember, but uh, so I'd been a head coach what 3-4 times previous to this position at Independent. So the that part of it I don't think played a role. I think the cameras wasn't an issue either. I think it was the microphones, because and then once I saw how they did everything, once the show came out, we saw a few snippets of what it looked like, and I was like, well, wow, that wasn't where that was supposed to be. That wasn't where it really was. They move things around for ratings, obviously. So people don't realize they filmed. They filmed. I'm on camera for 16 hours, 2 years, eight episodes a season. That's 16 hours into your home and you're on your TV screen. But they filmed me for 3,900 hours. So I mean, think about that. I mean, that's just what it
Wow.
is. They created ratings. They wanted ratings, and sometimes you wish they would put other things on there. And but they didn't. And Greg Whiteley, the producer, does a great job, and I've got no ill will. He does a good job of what he does, and there were some things I discussed with him that I thought should have been a little different. Like when the head coaches of Power Five schools, big time name guys, come in and tell your athletic director how great the kids are and how mature they are and how well mannered they are and how structured and disciplined the program is, and best look kids are a part of, and big time SEC schools coaches saying this. They don't put that on the show. And, it's like, that should have been on the show, in my opinion. They don't show me keeping kids there from going back to the neighborhood they grew up in to go kill someone that just killed their brother or sister, and then that kid graduates, and now he's on the academic honor roll at his respective Division I school. So they don't show a lot of that stuff, and I don't know why, but the kids know, and I don't really care, man. I mean, my job wasn't to please 30, 50, 100 million eyeballs that watch the show. I really don't care. I don't care what people think. My job was to get those kids Division I jobs. Head coach's definition by head coach by definition is to get you where you could not get yourself. That goes for coaches and players. And I got 13 coaches D1 jobs. I got 101 kids Division I scholarships in 3 years, which is a national record. We had the highest JUCO GPA of playing institutions that played 11-man football. And my kid's never been kicked out or thrown in jail once he leaves me. And I've sent 227 plus kids Division I. So, I mean, that's what makes me proud. That's what makes me go to sleep at night and be able to get up in the morning and know my kids aren't on social media talking bad about me. You've never seen it. No one's ever seen it. And when they do, let me know, because it ain't happening, because like I said, those relationships were built off of the camera. And I've done this for many, many years before camera ever found me, before a show ever found me. And that's why every D1 coach in America knows who I am. That's why I've sent more kids to Division I schools than any coach in America. And I've had 8 kids win Super Bowl rings. I mean, nobody's done that either. So it's like, people can say what they want based on a show, but it blows my mind sometimes, on another note, that grown folks judge other grown folks without ever meeting them or ever having any run-in with them, and it just blows my mind. That's just like me. I'm judging your job and telling you your volume's too low and you don't know what you're doing with your commercial breaks, and I have no clue what you do, and it's just asinine to me. But that's what the world we live in, and it's an instant gratification type of enabled generation, I guess, or world we're in, and that's just what it is, and you got to accept it or do something else, I guess.
Absolutely. And I want to move on to some of the great positive things you've got going on right now. But I do want to say this before I do. And you made mention of something I think is important. when a lot of negativity started getting out there about you, about the program, different things, I went on social media and I began to look at what your players were saying, not just your current players, but your players of the past. And man, did they ever come to your defense? And to me, that's the big picture because we can frame a camera to look any way we want it to look, and I'm not knocking directors or anything of that nature. They've got to sell, sell subscriptions or whatever it is. But the way that your players came to your defense, to me, you're a coach that, may come off as rough around the edges to some people, but you're a coach that your players would run through a wall for. And that kind of brings me to my next thing. How much of this has to do with people who haven't really played football, have a hard time understanding the environment and the approach that it takes for discipline of a big time football program?
It's probably 80%, and then you got 10% who are just flat out jealous one's envy type of deal, where they're probably in your profession, even your own staff, who get jealous of something that someone chose to do. I never asked for this. I never wanted to do it. I'm not an actor. I'm just a coach who helped kids and done it for my whole life. And come from nothing and try to make sure kids. I've never asked a kid. I got 27 in the NFL. I've never asked one for any money or any glory or anything.
Right.
And it's unfortunate. There's a lot of these leeches out there, and sometimes you find out who your real friends are. And this business is very, very cold. It's a cold one. And growing up in the precipice of the dope game in Los Angeles in the '80s and being raised by one of the premier drug dealers in United States history, I have an insight on that most don't. And, this is as cold as that game. That's how this profession is. That's how crazy it is. And so, you find out who your real friends are real quick. I'll tell you, you'd be surprised how many people really show up to your funeral or when you need $20 will give it to you, even though you've helped them out their whole life. So, you find out the true colors of people, and when the trials and tribulations start to occur, this kind of shows the real integrity and true grit of a person. And unfortunately, there's another 10% of just straight up haters. And so you got the haters out there, you got the coaches in your profession who are jealous, and then you got 80% of people that just don't have a clue on what your job description entails. And that's why I didn't really care. I mean, the haters make me go harder. The jealous ones are lazy and are self-entitled, and they think that this is an instant gratification type of job, that they want instant gratification right now. They think that they did 1 hour of work hard, they deserve to be the head coach at Alabama.
Right.
I had a lot of those guys, and I've run into a lot of those guys in this profession. And then you got your 80%ers that just never played and don't know diddly and judge you off of what they see on the show. And so there's your 100%. I mean, it's unfortunate that people do that. It's like me going around just judging, people that. And the part about it that's sad is a lot of these guys that are judging me are people that are these keyboard cowards typing behind this keyboard. Right. And not helping a soul, man. They're probably just some big fat dude eating a donut. They're not helping anyone get better in life, helping anyone do anything towards getting success, because this is ultimately a meat market that we coaches coach in, and the kids are pieces of meat inside that market. And I just never was that guy. I never wanted to treat the kid that way. I never, you see these D1 guys get recycled. They paid Willie Taggart $17 million to leave. To leave. Let me reiterate, right. To leave. And you hire these guys that have, name me a coach besides Saban and Dabo that have really been worth their money. Like, right. Let's be honest. And so, these other guys ain't making it hard on them. Those two schools control recruiting. They control the wins and losses. And because recruiting and talent is your lifeblood, and that is controlled by your work ethic and how you guys can, recruiting is everything. And so at least make it hard on them. Like they keep hiring the same coaches, and my whole point
Right.
was, I guarantee you, I'd get some of those kids. I don't care if I was at Idaho State or Montana. I'm going to get somebody so that school's not as good as they are, and that's the
Right.
job of an assistant coach. Should be your number one job after protecting the head coach. It should be going to get those kids and making it hard on those other schools. And it's just too easy for them. And there's only two schools out there. I mean, look at the money these guys are making. I mean, Jimbo, obviously got the one and hasn't been very successful since. And he gets $10 million at A&M. They've been mediocre at best.
Right.
Ed finally got one. Great friend of mine. I mean, I love him to death. So, I mean, he got one, but I think that's smoke and mirrors. I mean, he's lost all coordinators, all the quarterback. I just don't see that keeping the same. He's a great recruiter, so they'll still have some talent, but I just don't see them being the same. And I think you're back to Alabama, Clemson again this year, and Georgia will be in the hunt. But I don't know, man. I think Jeremy's doing a good job at Tennessee, getting them a little better. People threw the nail in the coffin on him early. I think they made a mistake. Kids love him, so I think he's getting that turned slowly but surely. But besides that, look at the rest of the country. I mean, Pac-12 is as bad as it's ever been. The ACC is as bad as it's ever been. Big 12, I mean, Big 10, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're average at best. It's just, I don't know. I think football is down in totality.
Absolutely. Once again, we're talking to Coach Jason Brown, coach, author, motivational speaker, doing a little bit of it all right now. Coach, obviously, this is a show that covers SEC sports, and a program like yours has had about every program in the country come through at some point. As you look at the SEC right now, who are some of the coaches that you were able to build a relationship with while you were at Independence Community Colleges?
Coach Pruitt's a great guy, man, at
Yeah.
Tennessee. I mean, I've obviously McGooden's there. We had another kid that ended up not playing for me. I ended up having to get rid of him, but he ended up going to another JUCO, and then he's at Tennessee as well. So I've had a few guys go there. We talk quite a bit. We still actually talk. He's a good dude. We had a lot of conversations. Derek Mason's a good friend of mine. Known him a long, long time. So their corner there is one of our kids at Indy. From Independence, so Dante, Carrier Williams, but and then there's a lot of, I know them all, to be honest, but there's a lot of assistants that I know that I'm closer with than others, than other places, obviously, but there's just to name a few. I mean, I've done this so long. I knew those guys before they were at the places they're at now. Obviously, me and Coach Sarkeesian grew up out here together in the same mud out here in California. He's a California JUCO guy, just like I am. And we go back quite a bit. And then me and Coach Kiffin, obviously, have known each other since he was at SC or even before, early years there. So obviously we had a relationship. Coach Ogeron the same way. And so then Coach Mason, obviously, on the West Coast. That's, me being a West Coast guy for so many years. So, those just to name a few. I mean, I've got great friends that are head coaches at the Division I level all over the country. And a lot of assistants I've either worked with in the JUCO ranks that were once JUCO guys or just have recruited me forever. And so, this past season was the first year I've had off in 25 years as a coach or a player. So
Wow.
It's just, it was one of those times that, it was probably needed for me for a year. And so we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Now I want to talk about your book, and I'm really intrigued by this. A kid from Compton now is also a big time author. Tell us about a little bit about your book, Hate Me Now, Love Me Later.
Yeah, man, shoot, I was never in a million years would I imagine it was a 6-week #1 bestseller. It was crazy to me, so I appreciate all the fans out there that bought it. Still selling anywhere books are sold, but it was just basically a bio of me, and I said I'm going to use the platform while I have it and create and write a book and just talk about the real life struggles of a coach, the real life struggles of a JUCO coach in particular, and then my life dealings with growing up and my how I got to where I got and so forth. And people liked to wanted to hear it, I guess, and went out and got it for me, and it was a good deal. And I've had Fortune 500 companies request me to speak to them, and they've adopted my quotes. I'm a big quote guy and a big think outside the box thinker as far as being an innovator and innovative thinking. And I've had a lot of those. I've been speaking not only at schools, but I've spoke to a lot of companies and to the sales team, upper management, CEOs. They've used a lot of my staff models and a lot of my cultural things that I like to recreate cultures with, and they've used those and adopted them. And from RV companies to oil companies, so it's been good.
Absolutely. Now, lastly, Coach, again, I appreciate you taking so much time and being with us. I want to ask you, have all these opportunities there. Now, you're a best-selling author. You're doing all of these speaking engagements. Obviously, you're still a hot ticket, even though you've taken a year to kind of rest a little bit from the coaching aspect. What is next in your career, Coach?
Man, I don't know. To be honest with you, we'll see how I think everyone in America forgives and forgets. I mean, I think a lot of these people, athletic directors, coaches, what have you, are gonna look at the show and they probably don't want to touch me or even talk to me. It is what it is. I don't know. I didn't create the show. I didn't write it. But the people that know me obviously know it's funny and how they depicted it. But you always got to convince the upper admin and all that stuff. And I have no desire to coach at this moment, and I haven't had it this whole off season, and it really hasn't changed much. Now I do love to help kids, love to mentor. I've been doing that still. So I'm always going to be around it. I'm on a nationwide coaching clinic tour. Before the virus hit and all that, I was traveling the country to clinic staffs, full on day and a half, all inclusive workshops type of coaching clinics at their schools, Texas, New York, you name it. I was going all over Florida, and so that's been halted obviously because of this deal. But so I was doing that. Plus, I was doing speaking engagements with players, actually with kids. So 28 high schools I spoke to. So I mean, it's been doing all those things, and it kind of kept me busy with the book. And then I got my own whiskey coming out, and we're going to drop that very shortly. And then I'm doing a podcast now. I signed with a contract with a company to do a podcast, and I'm about 31 podcasts in, and I've had great guests on, and I'm getting that going, and so it is what it is. We're trying to get it, trying to touch on all aspects, but as of right now, not a super big burning desire to coach right now, but I'm sure it will come back. Obviously, it just has to be the right fit and the right time, and we'll see. I'm a coach. It is what it is. I want to help kids and succeed, and that's what I've done my whole life, and help younger coaches succeed. So that's where we're sitting, and we'll see where the next where the railroad takes me.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people need to think back when they think about you, Coach, and your situation. They need to think back to Mike Leach when he was at Texas Tech, and there was
Oh yeah.
there were some pictures painted of him,
Oh
and there
yeah.
were some things he could have handled differently, but at the same time there was some misguiding of what really happened and went on, and he revived his career. Now he, obviously went on to Washington State. Now he's at
Uh-huh.
Mississippi State. And I see a lot of that same situation in you, Coach. I think, again, that people have to remember that you're not dealing with the Boy Scouts. When you get kids at JUCO, some of them are just lack of opportunity. Some of them are grades. Some of them are hardships. And when everybody gets excited and they cheer, and when they watch shows like Scared Straight, and then they criticize you when
Yeah.
you're scaring kids straight, to me, that's the ultimate hypocrisy. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so Coach, I want to, I know that you have a great brand, and I know you're going to do great things. I hope to see you back in the coaching ranks again. And I say this because I don't care how rough it is on the exterior. If it works, it works. And I guarantee you that if we just got, we just get glimpses of what Nick Saban looks like. If we got a camera all day long on Nick Saban, we would see some of the same things we saw on
Oh yeah.
Last Chance U. And not to
Uh-huh.
mention, not to mention, he's got a situation that's a lot easier, that he's not dealing with some of the same type situations you have to deal with when you get kids there. They come there and they know that, it's Alabama. When they come to play at Last Chance U, it's usually because something else happened when they come to
No
play for you
question.
in the past. So, Coach, I want you to know that you've got a lot of fans behind you, and
I
that we're
appreciate it.
one of them. And I can't wait to see where your career goes forward. Now, before we let you go, Coach, is there any place that you want to let our listeners know where they can follow you on social media or your podcast or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah. Go to our social media, man. I'm the real coach underscore JB, and then I've got an apparel line out there, CoachJBStore.com, and then like I said, I'm doing a coach's clinic and a coaching tour, and that's the real CoachJB.com. That's my website there, and obviously my podcast is Slap D podcast. You can find that on my social media and so forth. And like I said, I got a whiskey line coming out as well,
Awesome.
and so we're doing all these things, man. It's getting pulled. I'm busier now than coaching. Shoot, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But no, get doing those things. And the book, like I said, Hate Me Now, Love Me Later. You can get it from me personally. Still, I'm still doing a lot of autograph signings of it through Venmo. People are Venmoing me, Coach JB12. So you can do that and find me there. And like I said, we're just keeping it going one day at a time, man. Try to make $15 out of 15 cents. You know how it
Uh,
goes.
li- Absolutely, absolutely. Coach, appreciate so much you taking some time and being with us, and hopefully we can get you on the show again real soon.
No problem. Appreciate you having me. No problem.